Hi everyone! I will tell you something about the process we went through while preparing the policy intervention ideas you are going to hear about today. In order to create policy interventions, we followed a process called design thinking. Design thinking has 5 principles, making it possible to create relevant and innovative ideas which are helpful in developing policy interventions. The principles are: design thinking is human-centered, it's about experience, it's collaborative, it's optimistic and creative, and lastly, relevance rules, meaning that we only design policy that is relevant for the context. During the last 2 months, we have completed the design thinking process, and I will take you through this process. Even before the actual process of designing the policy interventions began, assignments focusing on the human-centered design thinking were already introduced to us. The goal of the assignments was to make us as students empathize with people living in various situations and surroundings. We, for example, interviewed residents in our own neighborhoods that were vastly different than us. We were also challenged to think about the idea of what it means for a place to be a community as a preparation of thinking about Tilburg as a community. This was all done to create a sense of empathy towards human beings. Johanna even created a guided meditation in which we were invited to imagine the legacy we want to leave behind for the next generation. We will let you listen to it for a bit.
Instead of a birthday speech, they decide to tell the gathered group about the legacy you left them, what they learned from you, about how to live, and the ways you inspired them. Now open your eyes, sit down, and write out a speech they would give, a memorial to you, their departed ancestor. What did they learn from you about how to live? In what ways you inspired them? What was your legacy?
After giving us an idea about the importance of empathy while thinking about community, the actual process of designing policy interventions was carried out during various lab sessions on Zoom. During the first lab session, a business consultant played a role-playing game with the students and teachers in order to increase the use of innate wisdom. Consultants, students, tried to solve a challenge given to them by clients, the teachers. The consultants had to solve the challenge in groups, but it did experience a lot of time pressure. This led to us having to tap into our innate wisdom, which resulted in creative potential solutions to the challenge. After the exercise in collaborative creative thinking, groups were formed in which we were going to make a policy intervention aimed at increasing the sense of community and social cohesion in several neighborhoods in Tilburg. These are de Uitvindersbuurt, Sint-Anna Zuid, Sint-Anna Noord, Schildersbuurt Zuid, Schildersbuurt Noord, and Trouwlaan. To increase the sense of empathy and relevance of the policy interventions, students living in Tilburg were asked to go out in these neighborhoods and observe factors that provided opportunities for a better community from various points of view. Thus, students went out individually to comply with COVID-19 restrictions and started experiencing neighborhoods. It was some good old-fashioned sociological fieldwork. A testimony from a student shows how we experienced it.
During this course, we got the assignment to walk around various neighborhoods in Tilburg. I've lived in Tilburg for 2.5 years, and I thought I would have seen most of it by now. But because of this assignment, I realized that that was far from the truth. I walked around Sint-Anna Noord, a neighborhood quite close to the city center. It was amazing to see how one neighborhood can have so many different people and so many different facilities in it so that everyone can feel at home. Going into a neighborhood by yourself can tell you so much more than any statistic or interview ever could.
During the next session, our policy intervention groups created blog posts and infographics about the interesting aspects of the neighborhood with regards to community. They formed these based on the neighborhood observations and additional statistics. We were once again invited to show creativity. Students were able to create interesting and easy to understand blog posts and infographics, even though this was the first time they did this, as can be seen from the nice examples. After this, we went through each other's blog posts and infographics and gave feedback. This is a nice way to be inspired by the ideas of others, but also to get feedback from many people and not just from the teachers. With this feedback, groups were able to revise their approaches and improve their methods. During the next session, the class was introduced to the method of using How Might We questions. How Might We questions can be used to reframe and redefine the design question one wants to research. This is important because the way one frames the question determines the context, meaning, and significance of the object. So instead of asking, how can we make the neighborhood free from garbage, we can say, how might we make cleaning up litter enjoyable for residents? You can see that the question that was originally framed as problematic has now been reframed to a positive and outcome-oriented question. We then went into our groups and revised the design questions we used for infographics and blog posts to a final 5 How Might We questions per group. Through a voting process with the class, we ended up with 10 How Might We questions that groups could choose from. To come up with creative ideas to solve these questions, students were introduced to the Crazy 8 method. The Crazy 8 method is a method to display the same object in 8 different ways. To get familiar with this, Joanna drew an apple and randomly picked the next person to draw an apple but in a different way. The person then picked another person, etc. In this way, students were asked to come up with an idea within seconds, which made the exercise even more fun. The results are clear. Apples come in different shapes and forms, but the message was there are different ways to solve the same thing. And that's exactly what the groups did. Based on the How Might We questions, each person from that group drew 8 ideas on how to solve the problem, which left each group with 24 to 32 ideas on how to approach the problem they saw in the neighborhood of their choice. The 8 best ideas in each group were then presented to the class. The whole class then voted on their favorite idea in order to select the best idea per group. Some groups decided to even present 2 ideas today. After this, we were told to make a short video pitch of our policy intervention ideas to show it to you today. In the last lab, everyone showed their draft videos to the group. This was a test to see how we were doing, and it turned out everyone had unique ideas for their videos. And we are sure you're going to enjoy them very soon. To end off, we would like you to listen to a testimony of another student who explains how the group experienced the process. Thank you for listening.
If I could use one word to describe the work groups of sustainability, health and well-being, it would be special. I have never had such a fun time brainstorming, discussing and even drawing, which I completely suck at. It was nice to work together with the group during this pandemic. I feel like we really learned a lot from each other's perspectives, and it surprised me how many nice ideas all the groups managed to come up with in such a short amount of time. Sometimes it was a challenge, but I learned things I otherwise would have never learned, and I made some new friends on the way. I wouldn't have wanted it any different.